government has launched a new inquiry into issues raised by the conviction of a former police officer who brutally raped and murdered a woman earlier this year, but activists say it isn't enough and are calling for new measures to stamp out acts of police violence against women. CNN's Nada Bashir reports.
Enough is enough. 16 silhouettes for the 16 women researchers say have been killed by a serving or former police officer since 2009. It's a troubling statistic gathered by an organisation which tracks femicide in the UK and brought into the spotlight following the murder of Sarah Everard. Killed by former police officer Wayne Couzens, who used his authority as a serving policeman to falsely arrest, abduct and rape her.
I absolutely know that there are those who feel their trust in us is shaken.
It's this erosion of trust that officials in the UK are now trying to tackle, increasing police presence in busy public spaces and advising women to ask key questions if they are approached by a lone officer.
They're not comfortable in the environment and they're dealing with a police officer, then ask them some questions. Where are you from? Why do you stop me? Where are your colleagues? And that way they can start to feel safe.
But for the many still shaken by Sarah's murder, these measures do little to restore public confidence in the police.
Yet again, it puts the onus of safety on women. The suggestions of all actions women yet again have to take to keep themselves safe.
Sarah's murder has brought into sharp focus police-perpetrated acts of violence against women. Between 2018 and 2019, 143 allegations of sexual assault by police officers were recorded in England and Wales. And in 2019, a police watchdog found that more than 400 referrals were made in relation to abuse of power for sexual purposes over just 3 years. Zoe Billingham, who led that inquiry, says that while these cases represent a small minority of police officers, even one case is one too many.
The evidence speaks for itself. Predators have found their way into policing, and until matters change, I can't say with certainty that policing is free from those predators and that victims will always be kept safe by those that are there to protect them.
Do you think there's a culture within the British police force that allows police officers to commit such crimes with some level of impunity?
There is a degree of tolerance within policing, which is an unacceptable degree of tolerance of misogynistic behaviour, and that needs to change.
The government has now launched an inquiry into the issues raised by the conviction of Wayne Couzens, including wider issues across policing, such as vetting practices, workplace behaviour and disciplinary action. But campaigners say that the abuse of power by some police officers is just one part of a wider epidemic of violence against women.
There is a wider, deeper, more structural issue around women and the way that the police women that currently won't be addressed by the report, so I hope that scope will be widened.
And just as flowers continue to be left for Sarah months after her brutal murder, the demand for police reform and greater accountability persists. Nada Bashir, CNN, London.
Coming up on CNN Newsroom, a deadly earthquake in Pakistan as rescue efforts are being hindered. We'll have details after the break. And we're just a couple of hours away from finding out this year's Nobel Peace Prize winner. Climate crusaders, COVID campaigners, and Reporters Without Borders are among the favorites. We'll have more coming up. Stay with us.
महीने का मेडिकल कितने साल हो गए आज कितने साल हो गए आज 27 में कर्म हो गया भाई वो काम करते हैं यार अभी देखो फोन मान अभी जब टाइम लगा तो देखा है अभी नहीं रहा होगा कोई ठीक है फिर पूरा करवा के कहाँ जा रहे हैं घुमाने
African Voices Changemakers
चल रहा है
in association with Glow Unlimited. Like, this is gonna work for me.
When Dotun Popola began studying art, he didn't think his career would have him digging through scraps.
I started my journey into sculpture in 2008 at the Obafemi Awolowo University when I did my first degree in sculpture. And after that, I did my master's in painting.
At his colorful studio in Ile-Ife, southwest Nigeria, his creations come to life.
Getting set to do my job, you got to be fully kitted, steel toe boots, knee guard, respirator, wearing mask.
I dream very big. I love something that looks bigger than what I could achieve. So the large sculptures that I create, they just naturally come as my way of expressing maybe the bigger God or the bigger me. So you're watching that volcano in the Canary Islands, which has been erupting for nearly 3 weeks now. The lava continues to flow, and the airport in La Palma remains closed due to volcanic ash. Nearly 6,000 people have evacuated their homes since it first erupted in September. Hundreds of homes and businesses have been destroyed, and banana crops are also devastated. Power failures and blocked roads are hampering rescue efforts in a remote area in southwestern Pakistan. A 5.9 earthquake struck the Harnai district Thursday morning. At least 15 people, including 8 children, have been killed. CNN's Larry Madowo has the latest.
Shell-shocked and weary earthquake survivors in Pakistan walk over broken homes. Some lucky enough to still have a roof over their heads. Others are trying to pick up the pieces of their lives. In the remote mountainous Harnai district, located in the province of Balochistan, a 5.9 magnitude earthquake woke the residents before dawn on Thursday.
We were obviously sleeping and woken up by the shock of the quake, and we panicked. We could not run anywhere because the earthquake was so strong. Even the walls were collapsing. We only just managed to get our kids outside.
Homes damaged, shops collapsed. Rubble mars the landscape. Trapped under one of those collapsed buildings, this Harnai resident and his family. One of his brother's children, only 2 years old, died before the ambulances reached the scene.
When we woke up, everyone was reciting Holy Kalima. We saw dust all over.
The United States Geological Survey said the quake had a depth of about 9 kilometers, relatively close to the surface, making it more dangerous. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan expressed his sorrow at the loss of lives in the earthquake on Twitter and called for swift rescue. But earthquake-induced landslides have blocked a road leading to the district, hampering rescue efforts. People with the most critical injuries are being evacuated by military helicopters to Quetta, the capital of Balochistan. Pakistan sits in an area with high seismic activity, and in Balochistan, the last earthquake in 2013 killed 330 people and injured close to 500. Larry Madowo, CNN.
The Nobel Committee is preparing to hand out the most prestigious award of the year. We'll take a look at some of the top contenders for the Nobel Peace Prize next here on CNN Newsroom. Please do stay with us.
This is my safe haven, my home. More than 1,000 islands scattered in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Conservation is my life. By working together, we can protect our ocean home into the future. The ocean gives us life. I know I will always be there. I hope you will too. Welcome to the Maldives.
A new global financial hub is coming to drive forward the world of finance. The Istanbul Financial Center, opening in 2022, will create new opportunities for the investors of tomorrow. The Istanbul Financial Center, a formula for success.
Coronavirus. To get daily news updates in your inbox, sign up for the CNN newsletter. Coronavirus. Fact versus fiction.
The Nobel Committee will announce the winner of the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize in just a little more than 90 minutes. This year's contenders include a familiar face in the fight against climate change, plus some new pro-democracy activists. Here's a look at the frontrunners. Locked behind a highly protected door, a list of the 329 nominees to win this year's Nobel Peace Prize. One of the world's most prestigious awards will go to one of the individuals or organizations on that list, but until Friday's announcement, the winner remains a mystery about which we can only speculate. Each year, the Peace Research Institute Oslo, or PRIO, does just that, with an esteemed prediction of likely frontrunners.
First, Reporters Without Borders. I think a journalism prize this year would be very important and speak both to the fight against fake news and the important work that journalists are doing in armed conflict areas all over the world.
Those protecting freedom of speech are high on PRIO's shortlist, followed by those defending democracy. PRIO's director says another likely candidate is Svetlana Tsikhanovskaya. She's an exiled Belarusian human rights activist and opposition leader at the forefront of a resistance against the country's authoritarian president. If the Nobel Committee chooses to award political dissidents, possible winners could include jailed Russian activist Alexei Navalny, or Justicia, a group of judges in Poland defending civil rights. Beyond that, PRIO thinks there are several other likely contenders.
One of the most important questions these days, of course, is climate change, with the IPCC just launching their sixth assessment report, demonstrating that this is the major global threat that we're facing.
The award will be announced just 3 weeks before world leaders gather for a critical climate summit. So the prize winner could be a champion of climate change activism. 18-year-old Greta Thunberg comes to mind in this category. The Swedish activist has helped catalyze a worldwide movement among youth to fight climate change. Others are predicting a nod to groups critical in the coronavirus pandemic, like the World Health Organization or COVAX, a vaccine-sharing initiative aimed at fairly distributing life-saving vaccines worldwide. Altogether, it's a long list of possible winners evaluated for a prize with a singular but complex meaning.
On a general basis, the Peace Prize is given out not for people being angel saints, but for people making enough effort to make a better world, a better organized world, and a world with less war and more peaceful coexistence between the peoples.
Whose endeavor best fits that description? Well, we'll soon find out. And here's a look at the most recent Nobel Prize winners. Last year's prize went to the World Food Program for efforts to combat hunger. The year before, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali won for what the Nobel Organization called his decisive initiative to resolve the border conflict with neighboring Eritrea. In 2018, Yazidi human rights activist Nadia Murad and Congolese Dr. Denis Mukwege won for their efforts to end the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. In 2017, the Nobel was awarded to the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, and in 2016, the winner was Juan Manuel Santos, the former president of Colombia, won for his efforts to end the country's more than 50-year-long civil war. All right, that wraps this hour of CNN Newsroom. I'm Kim Bernhuber. News continues with my colleague Isa Suarez next. Please do stay with us.
Air quality update in association with Copernicus, Europe's eyes on Earth.
बोलना पड़ गया हूँ ठंडा ठंडा होता है
Air quality update in association with Copernicus, Europe's eyes on Earth.
Hello and a warm welcome to our viewers joining us in the United States and right around the world. I'm Isa Suarez in London and just ahead right here on CNN Newsroom.
Republicans played a dangerous and risky partisan game, and I am glad that their brinksmanship did not work.
The civility is gone, okay, and I'm not going to be part of getting rid of it. I'm going to try to bring it back, and I'll speak out when I see someone do something I don't like.
From deadlock to deal, Senate leaders pull the US from the brink of default. For now, the January 6th committee subpoenas 2 more people behind the storming of the Capitol. This as Trump allies face their subpoena deadline. Plus, the COVID vaccine should be available for millions of children within weeks. We have all the details for you.
Live from London, this is CNN Newsroom with Isa Suarez.
Welcome, everyone. It is Friday, October the 8th, and we begin with a crisis averted for now. 2 senators, US senators, I should say, have voted to temporarily extend the nation's debt ceiling. That basically means they avoid what everyone agrees would have been a disastrous default. That means the US government will have more money. In fact, it will have another $480 billion in about 2 more months to pay its bills. The House of Representatives still has to agree, but this is only a temporary fix because come December 3rd, they will have to face a vote on this again. Now, stopgap measure brings US debt limit to a whopping $28.88, you can see there, trillion dollars. And that's the amount the government can borrow to pay the bills it already owes. It has nothing to do with future spending. So what does this all mean? CNN's Ryan Nobles has more on the Senate compromise as well as the major challenges still ahead.
It wasn't easy, but the United States Senate has passed a bill that is going to lift the debt ceiling temporarily through the first week of December and averting an economic catastrophe that could have happened if the debt ceiling wasn't lifted as soon as next week. Republicans and Democrats hashing out a deal that would basically just kick this problem down the road a couple of weeks, but avoiding that problem in the middle of October. But it still didn't come easy. Republican leader Mitch McConnell working out a deal with Chuck Schumer that they had hoped would mean they could bring that bill to the floor without any Republican opposition, and then just Democrats could vote yes, Republicans vote no. But the Senate is a fickle place, and Republican Senator Ted Cruz and a few others said no, that they were still going to try and block the legislation. And when you put that filibuster in place, that requires 60 votes total in order for there to even be an up and down vote. McConnell did try and convince his colleagues to get those 10 votes necessary to get it to the floor. He was successful, but there were a few anxious moments as the vote went down. Ultimately, there were the 10 votes to get there. For the most part, it was Republican leaders, moderates, and a group of Republican senators who are not seeking re-election that were not afraid to cast that vote to allow the bill to come to the floor. After that, the simple up or down vote came through, and it passed along partisan lines. Now, the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sent a letter to her colleagues earlier today informing them that they should be prepared to come back early from their the recess that they're currently on in order for the House to pass this same piece of legislation. The President, Joe Biden, has said that he'll sign it into law, so the crisis for now will be averted. But again, to make clear, this has not solved any problems. The same impasse that we were dealing with here on Capitol Hill before we got to this point still exists. It's just now going to exist the first week in December before we get into the Christmas holiday. And it's also important to point out that it comes at the same time that there'll be another issue with the government spending. A government shutdown could loom once again, and there's still that continued debate over the president's domestic spending plan and agenda. Democrats still haggling out all those issues. So crisis averted, at least at one stage, but a lot more work to go. Ryan Nobles, CNN, on Capitol Hill.
Well, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, says she's relieved about the temporary fix for the debt limit, but she told CNN's Erin Burnett that Congress needs to come up with a long-term solution. Take a listen.
I think it is damaging to confidence of consumers, of investors. Of course, everyone, including me, breathed a sigh of relief that we were able to reach an agreement that gets us to December 3rd. We were staring at October 18th as a time when we would, run out of extraordinary measures and cash would be running down quickly. So it's important that we have.
Janet Yellen there. Well, let's get a check of how the US future markets are responding. Yesterday, as you saw, markets look pretty good, but look pretty flat so far. As we look at the futures, little change, but markets celebrated, obviously, that decision by the Senate to temporarily raise the debt ceiling. Of course, they're only kicking the can down the road, but so far, we're seeing mostly green arrows. But their eyes will be fixed on the release of the September US jobs report, and will likely shed some light on whether August's disappointing numbers were just a blip or the start of an unwelcome trend. Enhanced unemployment benefits expired at the beginning of September, and the report is also expected to indicate what impact that had on the labour market. So stock markets will be fixed on that this Friday. Now, a deadline has now passed for 4 close aides of former President Trump to comply with subpoenas by the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th riot at the US Capitol. And a fresh round of subpoenas have gone out to organisers of the Stop the Steal rally that preceded the Capitol attack. The deadline for them is next Wednesday. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats have issued a scathing report about then President Trump's efforts to overturn his election loss. CNN's Jessica Snyder in Washington has all the details for you.
Former President Trump relentlessly sought to overturn the election, and today the attempted coup is detailed in this nearly 400-page Senate report. Trump directly asked Justice Department officials 9 times to undermine the election result, and when the former president considered replacing then-acting Attorney General Geoffrey Rosen with loyalist Jeffrey Clark, a DOJ lawyer who supported the election fraud lies, White House counsel Pat Cipollone threatened to quit.
It was Cipollone who spoke up and said that he thought that this scenario, what they were trying to achieve, was a murder-suicide pact, and the president should not do it.
The committee's report is the most comprehensive account so far of Trump's wide-ranging plot. New revelations include accounts from inside the Oval Office on January 3rd, when Trump blamed former U.S. Attorney B.J. Pak for failing to find mass election fraud in Georgia and wanted him fired. That prompted acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue to call Pak that night to tell him to preemptively resign, which he did. Republicans have already issued a rebuttal to the report, dismissing the idea that Trump was attempting a coup, noting that ultimately no action was taken by the DOJ.
In fact, if he had made another decision, you would have had a problem.
But the Senate report just adds to the mountain of revelations showcasing how Trump and his loyalists tried to keep the former president in power. And the plot didn't just target the DOJ. This memo obtained by CNN in mid-September shows how conservative lawyer John Eastman outlined a 6-point scheme to persuade then Vice President Mike Pence to throw out the election results on January 6th.
This has been a massive attack on the integrity of the voting system in the greatest democracy on earth.
Meanwhile, new court documents revealed Rudy Giuliani and other Trump allies testified under oath that they did little to verify these false election fraud claims before blasting them out to the public. In a sworn deposition, Giuliani acknowledged he did not have all the facts before falsely accusing a Dominion voting systems executive of changing votes for Joe Biden, defending it this way, saying, "We didn't pronounce him guilty. We laid out the facts that we had." And all of this as the former president continues to insist the election was rigged. Trump released a statement criticizing the work of the January 6th Select Committee, saying lawmakers should conclude that the real insurrection happened on November 3rd, the presidential election, not on January 6th. And the Select Committee just issued 2 new rounds of subpoenas to more people involved in planning the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th. That was a precursor to the Capitol attack. One of the subpoenas is to the Stop the Steal group leader, Ali Alexander. He previously claimed that he worked closely with Republican congressmen planning the rally and that he communicated with the White House, all of those major points of interest for the Select Committee. Jessica Schneider, CNN, Washington.
Now, the US and Mexico are getting ready for talks on border security today. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is leading the US delegation, which also includes the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security. The 2 countries are hoping to find new ways, really, to cooperate on the migrant crisis and the fight against human trafficking, drug smuggling, as well as organized crime. A senior US official says it's important for both sides to address the causes of those security challenges. We'll stay on top of that story. Now, the collapse of an enormous scaffold at a high-rise in Hong Kong a few hours ago has had tragic consequences. A female construction worker died after she and 7 colleagues were rescued. The woman was unconscious when she was found and rushed to hospital, where she passed away. The scaffold collapsed into a tangled mess, really, as Hong Kong was under a cyclone warning. The city was being covered by strong gusty winds, and you can see there pretty heavy rain. Still to come, young children could be lining up to get a COVID vaccination soon. Just ahead, we'll find out which shot the FDA will be considering for ages 5 to 11 in the coming weeks. That story right here on CNN Newsroom.
बादलबाद में एक लेडी है, वहाँ का वो शुभम को वहाँ करा, उसे हटाया। अभी उसके 3 साल के लिए उसको खत्म नहीं देते।
Quest's World of Wonder, in association with Turkish Airlines.
For those into rebellion, Christiania is the place to be. And I'm suddenly going to be listening to what are you doing? Wait. Christiania began in the early 1970s in a free town commune in the middle of Copenhagen. It's often known Christiania is not the revolution it once was. There is still rebellion in a reasonable and sensible way. For instance, the rule of graffiti.
You ask yourself, can I do this better? If the answer is no, you will not overpaint it.
होता तो फिर आगे नहीं होता कि वहाँ पे जाओ हरिद्वार में यहाँ रिक्त नहीं है ना जैसे हम जाएंगे ना रिक्त हो जाएंगे
Inside Africa Fact File in association with Zenith Bank.
मुझे जब आपका प्रमोशन होगा तभी जाओगे ना आप 5 से 7 में तक जाओगे आप हम दोनों का एक पद हो गए यहाँ, दो पंचायत के पद हो गए यहाँ। जब तक यहाँ से आपको परमिशन नहीं होगा तब तक आप ध्यान रखते ना, ये चक्कर है।
I'm Wolf Blitzer. This is CNN.
Dubai is ready to push the boundaries and showcase the world's latest innovations.
It's an extraordinary playground to invent, experiment.
But Expo 2020 aims to go far beyond dazzling its visitors.
It's a place where the sustainability is beyond imagination.
How will it drive critical change and meet tomorrow's challenges? The Road to Expo, Saturday on CNN.
माहौल देखियो और फिर देखियो ना, जो आपको सूट हो गया तो ठीक है, फिर जब सूट के हाथ फिर यहीं आइए। फिर कहाँ जाओगे ना आप, एक बार ज्वाइनिंग तो करना वो है, उसके बाद 2 सीट खाली हो जाएंगी, उसके बाद आपको बस अटेंजमेंट करवा लो। अटेंजमेंट में क्यों ना फुल पोस्ट पे आप समाधान हो गया, अब वो नहीं रहे, आप अल्पसंख्यक 2 आदमी यहाँ ना हमारी जगह आ सकते हैं। आप करो सुबह में लड़का जा रहा है, सुबह तो हम वो तो वरिष्ठ हो जाएंगे ना, वो वरिष्ठ हो गया। अभी तो कनिष्ठ समाजन में गए ना, नहीं होता
अभी तो कनिष्ठ में ट्रांसफर हुआ, अब ये प्रमोशन होगा ना तब वरिष्ठ हो जाएंगे।
हाँ, हम दोनों को प्रमोशन हो रहा है ना,
अब आप भी वरिष्ठ में ना, फिर उसके बाद फिर आपका नंबर है,
उसके बाद में फिर 2 सीट खाली हो जाएंगी, आप चाहो यहाँ करा लो,
यहाँ करा लो, फिर आप 1-2 साल बाद यहाँ आए कि फिर आपका प्रमोशन हो जाएगा।
6-7 साल में होगा आपका। आप कितने साल हो गए?
3 साल हो गए।
4 साल के बाद होगा, 4 साल तक यही कार्ड